Hi everybody, it's Nut from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to delve into narcissistic energy, and we're going to figure out why we attract narcissists into our life and its correlation to abundance, because it has a very strong correlation to abundance that a lot of times we don't see till we kind of get on the other side of it. And when I mean get on the other side of it, clear a lot of the programming that attracts in narcissists. So it's a very popular topic to talk about narcissists, right? And how we attract them in, and we always want to blame the narcissist. We always want to blame the person that is so self-absorbed, that puts themselves above other people, that tells, that makes us feel small, makes us feel not good enough, makes us feel like they're more important than we are. Our feelings don't matter. We're not good enough. Those are all narcissistic behaviors, and we always want to sit there and point the finger at people like that. And I'll see that a lot in different videos people do about narcissists and, how not to attract them. And what we don't get until we get to certain spaces in our consciousness is that narcissists are just mirroring our inner narcissist, right? Our human programming is a narcissistic program. If we clear that narcissistic program, if we stop living from our human consciousness, technically we no longer are going to attract in narcissists, because people speak our thoughts back to us. We can't blame someone for speaking the thoughts back to us, but a lot of times that's what we want to do, because we want to put the blame on somebody else. That is what our human will want to do first off. We want to say it's somebody else. It's not us. It's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. And I also see that in a lot of videos. And the tip I will give you, 99% of the time, until we get to very high dimensional consciousness and embody in those consciousnesses, like when you're talking 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, even 9th and 10th dimensional consciousness, I still feel like a lot of it is still ours. Because if we have any reaction at all, it belongs to us. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It's ours, but we want to put it on somebody else because we don't want to deal with ourselves. We don't want to listen to the self-talk, the back talk that we get into when it comes to how we really feel about ourselves. And what a narcissist is going to do is it's just going to mirror that back to you. When we get into doing a lot of our deep program clearing, a lot of what comes up with us is we're not good enough. Everyone else is doing better than we are. Everyone else is more important than we are. We put certain people on pedestals. We let our feelings not matter so we can pump somebody else up. We start to say, hey, you can't do that because of this. You're not good enough to do that. You're not good enough to go to that school. These are our own self-doubts. These are our own self-talk. That is what the human does to keep us in that box of the human ego, of the human realities. We're not meant to break out of those things until our awakening comes. Then we are given the tools and shown that it's all a bunch of bullshit. None of that is really true. But for us to bust through all of that self-worth programming and all the back talk we give ourselves, a lot of people call it our inner narcissist, which is, it's just, a narcissist is just saying what our inner narcissist is saying, right? That we're not good enough, that someone else is more important than we are, someone else deserves more than we do. We don't deserve the best of everything. Someone else deserves that. We put up with those types of things. We put up with those types of people. And even someone we might not even label as a narcissist, we'll put up with certain types of people because we don't believe there's anything better. We don't believe there's another reality. I hear that so many times. If anyone who is really stuck in their human program, which is, hey, this is the only reality. And if we ever catch ourselves saying this is the only reality, then we are very much stuck in our human program, because that's bullshit. This is never the only reality. There's a zillion different human realities. They're all just as distorted, but there's also a billion different higher consciousness realities we can go into. There's never just one. And if we believe there's just one, we are fooling ourselves. I read the book Tommyland from the drummer of Motley Crue, and it was really funny because there's one thing he said in that book, and he said, if you think this is the only reality, you're wrong. And a lot of times I'll read certain books and just certain things pop out at me because I'm like, yeah, exactly right. And it just shows you can find consciousness anywhere. But when we're not looking for it, we can't find it. When our human consciousness can't see consciousness, okay? It can't see our subconscious. Your higher consciousness aspects can see your subconscious, and they can see other people's subconscious too. And you understand what's going on with everybody. But for a while, we're not able to hone in on that. In our human consciousness, we cannot see that stuff. We are blinded to it. So when we talk about quantum jumping, when we talk about clearing programming, when we talk about seeing our programming, anyone living from a human anyone living from a human consciousness and creating human realities and living in those human realities, third dimensional realities, they can't see any of that. They have no power there. They're powerless. You know, it is their own inner narcissist. Again, they don't have any power here. You know, they don't have any self-worth. They don't have any power. And until they start to shed the human programming and step into their higher aspects and embody in those aspects, which means you live from that consciousness. A lot of people can hit the consciousness. That's not that hard to do. They'll hit the consciousness. They'll do a meditation. They'll, you know, and some people will even do drugs to hit a certain consciousness. But that's not embodying in the consciousness. That is just being in the consciousness for a while. But unless you set in that consciousness for a long period of time, you start really embodying in the consciousness to be able to live the consciousness. You can't just see it and say, oh yeah, I saw all that, but I'm going to go back and live my human realities because I'm not quite ready to let those go yet. I still feel like there's something I want out of those. There's something in there. I don't believe there's something else. I don't believe that I can go to the next step. We talk a lot about doing realities. Your higher consciousness realities we get into, our karma clearing ones, are not ones we really want to do. You know, I've been doing a lot of ancestral karma clearing, you know, dealing with parents, dealing with siblings, dealing with a lot of this type of stuff, this type of energy the last year. I'm going to carry on forward with that some this year. I feel like most of mine is done in that sense. But it really made me see how that kind of stuff was holding me back. And a lot of people call that ancestral karma, you know, and it's not just this moment, but in all our dimensional realities we're clearing. But you'll probably focus in on certain things, certain figures in your life. Parents, blood family, they're a big one that's really going to help you clear a lot, because everything they say, we tend to take that more personal because it's our parents, it's our blood family. We take that a lot of times harsher than we would take it from someone else. We make that more personal because we have a human personal tie to that. You know, how they feel about us, how they represent us in their mind makes a difference to us until we clear that too, realizing they're just souls. They're no more special than anyone else. They're no more conscious than someone else in their human programming. They don't get a pass because they're blood family. That does not mean we're not compassionate, and if we're in a reality to support them, and you'll know if that's your role in certain realities, then we have to be all in that reality. We have to clear all the stuff we're carrying, because as long as we have our inner narcissist talking to us, the self-doubt, the self-worth, and if that's mirrored back through blood family, judging what we've done, especially when we get to certain parts in consciousness, you're going to feel a lot of judgment on what you've done. But that's also our own inner judgment. You know, if we don't feel that, we can't be judged. If it doesn't affect you when someone says that, a lot of times people say lots of things to me because I don't live by the typical human realities anymore. I don't live in that consciousness. I don't live in those realities. But to others, I live very strangely because I don't cater to that stuff. I don't cater to those mentalities. I don't believe that those are the only realities there are. I've cleared enough of the programming to understand there's a zillion other realities I can recreate, and I've got nothing to do with any of those anymore. They don't interest me anymore. I don't want to be involved in them anymore. But those are not, when we first start walking down those paths, those are not simple paths and doors to walk down. It takes a lot of courage to walk down a path that, knowing you're going to be kind of shunned from the human realities when that's the only one you've known, and that's what's embedded in your body. And when you have to walk away from that, there's so much fear that goes into that. There's so much doubt that goes into that. And it can take years to get through that kind of stuff. And it can take years, and we don't even realize how much it affects our self-worth. We don't realize how much of that stuff we carry until we start to get on the other side of it. until we clear for years and years and years. And you start to look at, I got farther dealing with my parents in 1 year than I had dealing with my parents over a large, over a 20-year period of time. Seeing them only here and there. Seeing them a lot more, I've really been able to get into that program. I've really been able to kind of delve into that more. And it's been an amazing experience to clear a lot of the programming that I had going on around it. And that can be massive when you start looking at how much of that stuff is wrapped around your self-worth, how you see yourself. Are we still judging ourselves on what is successful in human reality? Are we still looking at ourselves in that context? Are we still looking at ourselves from that mirror? Are we still trying to fit there, even though we know we can't fit there anymore? These are massive things that we will clear. And when you start to clear those, you start to see how much that gets into our abundance energy, how much that takes away from us. And everyone will say, oh, I have so much self-worth, blah, blah, blah. If a human ego is saying that, and if you feel the need to say that, you don't have any, okay? You're saying that to make yourself feel better. You're saying that to project that out. You're not hearing what your subconscious is saying. Unless I'm doing a video talking about self-worth, I never talk about my self-worth. I don't have to. I live from a powerful place where that does not need to be spoken. It does not need to be dredged up. It does not need to be explained. It just is. When I'm setting in my power, that's what that is. I don't have to tell someone that how much of a value I had for myself. I value myself so much, I took myself out of human realities and went against the grain for years and years and years and years and years to clear that type of programming so I would never be enslaved back into human realities again. Walked away from a lot of stuff, did a lot of things people didn't understand. Most of my world got turned upside down. And once we go through those types of things, we go through those types of energies, we really put ourselves kind of through the fire. We were kind of trial by fire and to get to the other side. And it can take so many years to get to the other side. But when you start to see things start to break up and open a little bit, you start to see how we don't even realize how much we have as far as that self-worth baggage that we carry. Now, there's been a long time since I've had an actual narcissist present to me, right? That does not mean, so I cleared enough of my programming through the years where I didn't have those people kind of showing up anymore, but I still had my inner narcissist still going. It just wasn't strong enough to attract in a person to match that, right? And I would shut that down pretty fast. But that didn't mean I still didn't have the program going on. You start to tune into your subconscious. You start to understand the subconscious. You start to hear it. And once you can hear it, that's what I'm projecting out. That's the part that humans don't get. When you're in your human consciousness, you cannot hear your subconscious. You really believe that, oh no, I feel so great about myself. Oh no, I feel so this about myself. I'm not all into myself. And there are times in this journey where we have to really just get into ourselves again and really care about ourselves in a sense to build our light up. But then we realize it's not about us anymore. Now it's about everybody else. And now we have to go through and start living our life to assist other people. I mean, are we really in a relationship with people and with our soul family? Are we making their lives easier? Are we just another part of the human ego, the human realities that are just trying to screw everybody over to get what we want? We really have to look at ourselves with that, because if we're still in that our own self-doubt, our own trying to screw someone else over to have something, then we have not cleared that. And we're fooling ourselves if we think we have cleared that. If we're not looking at how am I in this reality to make this reality easier for everybody else, or in this reality to make everything easier for me? And I don't give a fuck about everybody else. Those are questions we really have to ask ourselves and really listen. And really be honest with ourselves, not judging what we say. Because that's another thing we want to do. Now we're going to throw judgment on top of all of our self-doubt, and we're going to throw judgment on top of that and make ourselves feel even worse. It's not about feeling worse. It's about being honest with how you feel to clear that and say, well, I don't believe that. I believe this. And this is what I'm going to believe, until we say that enough, till we reprogram enough to where we don't believe that anymore. We'll stop attracting these situations. We'll start having people say things to us. You know, it's funny, I haven't anyone say anything to me in a while that had kind of got a trigger out of me, and something did happen the other week, because I was doing a abundance course, and part of that, where you activate all that consciousness, and then, you know, what's not that consciousness has to come up and clear. And I felt pretty shitty the whole week, really, because I'm like, oh, I feel so crappy, you know, and I'm so kind of down on myself because I was clearing all that stuff I thought I'd cleared. It's just, we keep going deeper and deeper to clear more and more and more and more. And someone said something to me, and I was like, wow, that's really how you feel about me? And for a minute, it shook me off for just a minute. And then I realized, wow, it doesn't really bother me like that would have bothered me a year ago, or like that would have bothered me probably 4 months ago. So we do make progress. But sometimes I think, I know I would do this. I kind of fool myself with how much progress I'm making. And when we still don't value ourselves, we're not tapping into our full abundance. And a lot of people think, oh, abundance is money. Abundance is all these things. Abundance has nothing to do with money. It's the feeling of being abundant inside. It's a feeling of true abundance within yourself. Money, all those things will come with that once we really achieve that inside. But once you achieve that feeling of true abundance inside, not needing any of that other stuff, and all that self-talk is not beating you down inside, you step into your self-worth. Look at the wording there, what we're worth. And then you start to see it coming from other places. But it won't truly come until, A, we have valued ourselves enough without money for long enough where we don't care if we have it. 2, we know if we have it, what we would do with it. You know, we're not going to support human realities with it. The abundance is a whole separate video. This is a whole separate video that I don't want to get too much into that one today. I am going to do a Q&A, I think, in a couple weeks on my YouTube channel to kind of bring some of that stuff up that people want to talk about. But for now, I don't want to get too far into that, because that'll be another hour, and that'll be another hour onto this video. So really listen to what you're saying, and really listen to how you feel about it. And there'll be times when we're not feeling a lot of abundance within ourselves, and we have all that self-doubt coming in. And a lot of times when you start to hear the thoughts, we can clear the thoughts. But if we can't hear them, and we don't know what's going on inside, we tend to kind of fool ourselves about what's going on inside. And then when you see all the human consciousness videos that come out about this stuff, kind of putting the blame on everything out there and saying, oh no, that's all their stuff, that's not my stuff. If it's in your life, it's probably your shit. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be yours. We got to find where it is. We got to find if it bothers us. We got to find where we still hold that. We've got to let our realities have time to reset. A lot of times we don't give ourselves time to reset. We want to jump right into the next reality because we're like, oh, this one, because we're bored. We don't want to deal with ourselves. That's another thing our inner narcissist will do, is try to keep us distracted with other things so we don't have time to deal with ourselves. So we don't have time to go inside. We don't want to take the time to go inside. We want to just, whoa, what else is going on outside? You know, humans are driven by the outside world. Souls are driven by their inside world. If my inside world is at peace, my outside world will be at peace. And if something comes up that is not okay, I will take care of that and I will deal with that from as much love and compassion as that situation will require, but I will deal with that. And that's where we will all eventually start to see. We start to see where we're self-sabotaging ourselves, where we're setting ourselves up for failure, where we're setting ourselves up. If you're in a human reality, you're setting yourself up for shit that's going to fail. There's no getting around that. If it's a human reality that your human consciousness set up, it's not meant for long term. It is like that song, you know, it's we're written in the sand or we're written in the stars. They're written in sand, they're written on quicksand, because once you break the programming that held that reality in place, which means you just believed it to be that way, it'll sink. And it is shocking to me. It's still shocking to me how fast it goes away. We would have all these stories about how long it would take, and oh my God, you know, because we define ourselves by our stories. We define ourselves by, you know, all these stories we tell about ourselves, who we are, what we did 20 years ago, you know, what we're doing now, how successful we are, how much money we have, what kind of car we drive. all those stories we have because we have an identity to those stories. Even if you get into survivor storylines, we get attention from our stories. And as long as our human ego keeps getting attention from our stories, we keep telling the damn story because we want to get attention from our story. More of our own inner narcissists, no matter how bleak the story is, no matter how sad the story is, we're going to keep telling the story because it gives us attention. It gives us a sense of, oh, I got through that. Now I have some kind of self-worth because I battled through that external experience. The external experience is nothing compared to the internal experience that we're going to have to get through. So listen to the stories. Listen to what we travel on about. Listen to what we want to impress somebody with. We want to get attention by saying, oh, I know that person. Oh, I did that. I did this 30 years ago. It would always surprise me when I talk to people and they would want to talk about what they did 30 years ago. Right? Never, like the old Yoda, the quote from The Empire Strikes Back. Never our mind on where we are or what we're doing right now is what we did before. And that's what we will always do. We will deflect. We'll go into these stories because they give us some kind of value. And we want to impress other people. Any story I tell it for teaching. And if I'm telling a story and it's coming from my ego, I know right away because I'm like, well, I'm even telling that story. No one even asked. No one asked about my story. No one asked to hear that. Why am I holding on to that? Why am I holding on? Because we kind of keep that trauma. We keep ourselves entrenched in those old realities because we don't want to let go of the story because it gives us a value. And what we want to do when our inner narcissist is talking to us is have some type of value. And even the most distorted, fucked up story will give us a value of some sort. So we have to unearth it all. We have to look at it all. We can't be afraid of any of it. We can't be afraid of ourselves. It's just who we are. We're afraid of judging ourselves. We're afraid of seeing what's really in there. And we have to move forward from that. We can't stay stuck in that. So, okay. We're going to end that one today. It was a little heavy. That was a little heavy, but I think it was necessary. So, okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.